If you've ever worked as a pizza delivery driver, you've probably seen some strange things. I've delivered pizza to people dressed like superheroes. One tried to pay me in Monopoly money. I've seen drunk customers argue with their own reflections before answering the door. Most delivery drivers have stories like that. Funny stories. Stories you laugh with your coworkers about after work. I used to have those stories. Funny stories. But after one fateful Friday night, I quit delivering altogether. And even now, years later, when I hear radio static, my heart drops. Because I know exactly what happens next. I used to work at a small family-owned pizzeria. Tony's Pizzeria. I know, very creative. It was nothing special. Red booths, the diner, an old arcade machine that hadn't worked in years. But it was quiet, it was cozy, and it paid well. The owner of the restaurant, my boss Tony, always acted more of an uncle than an actual manager. We always cracked jokes, made fun. I mean, of course, when a guy doesn't do what he's supposed to, he's gonna snap, but that's just every business owner. But even with the quiet pizzeria, Friday nights are packed. Phones rang almost non-stop. The pizzeria was filled to the brim with parties and people just hanging out getting ready for the weekend. It was one of those nights that the ticket printer never seemed to stop. I grabbed 2 large pizzas from the warming rack. Tony just looked over at me and smiled. "You're making good money tonight, aren't you?" I smiled back. So far, if those tips keep coming. He laughed and told me they will. He said people were generous on Fridays. One of my coworkers, Mike, looked over at me and said, "Not if you're delivering to apartment 12, and everybody laughed. To understand why apartment 12 was so infamous, it had this old guy in it that just never tipped. He was already barely surviving off of his retirement fund, and I mean, no one really blamed him. He was kind of grumpy and could get on our nerves, but hey, we let it slide. I still had the 2 large pieces in my hand, and Tony told me where to go. It was an easy one this time, only about 6 minutes away. I thought, perfect. This will be easy, 6-minute drive, I'll be able to listen to radio. I grabbed an insulated pizza bag and headed towards the door. As soon as I walked into my Honda Civic, I turned on the radio as loud as it could go. Jack FM was playing some classic rock. I tapped my fingers on that steering wheel like I was a professional drummer. Everything was perfect. The weather was nice. The radio station was playing absolute bangers. The pizza smell, oh my gosh, it was heavenly in the car. All my friends were having a good time back at the pizzeria, and I was just gonna get to chill in my car for 12 minutes and deliver a pizza. The first delivery went as perfectly as it could have gone. An elderly couple answered the door with their 5 and 6-year-old grandchildren. The old man smiled at me and said, "Thank God, my wife was about to make me cook." The old woman just rolled her eyes, turned to her grandchildren, and handed them the pizzas. She pulled out a 20 from her pocket, and I thought, oh, this is gonna be the best shift yet. She handed me the 20, I thanked her for her business and got in my car, turned the radio on, and went straight back to the pizzeria. About 30 minutes later, after I had delivered a couple more pizzas, Tony handed me an order and said, "This will be your last order before your break." I glanced at the receipt. 1 large meat lovers, breadsticks, a 2-liter soda. Unfortunately, the address was a neighborhood I never delivered to before. It wasn't far, maybe 10 minutes. "No problem." Tony smiled and said I could finally eat something after this. I laughed and agreed. The neighborhood seemed older. Street lights barely worked or were completely out. Most of them flickered and you could barely see where you were going. The houses were close together. Every porch light was off. It took me like an extra 10 minutes just to find this house. Finally, I pulled into the driveway, double-checked the address, got out of my car, and knocked on the door. For several seconds, nothing happened. But then, the door slowly began to open. A guy stood in the doorway, looked to be early 30s. He was wearing a gray hoodie, he had dark hair, and looked very tired. Almost like he hadn't slept in days. But something else got my attention. He was darting his eyes everywhere except at my face, like he was distracted or something. I told him I had his pizza. He didn't react for a moment. He blinked, and then he just said, "Oh, right." Like I hadn't been standing there for a solid 2 minutes. He reached into his hoodie pocket, then his jeans, and then the other jean pocket, and turned pale. And when I say pale, I mean like white as paper. All he said was, "Oh no." And I instantly knew he did not have the money for this pizza. I just told him, "Hey, I can't give you these pizzas unless I get paid." He looked at me and said his friend had the money and that he was in the park, and I knew I was getting scammed. But I could clearly tell this guy needed some food, and I thought, okay, I'll make up the difference. After that, I just asked, "Your friend?" trying to act like I had no idea that he was trying to scam me. He just nodded quickly like he was nervous, which I kind of got because he was literally scamming me. He said yeah, and that the park was just around the corner. I thought maybe there was a chance his friend was there, and what was the worst that could happen? So I handed over the pizzas and just said, "Okay, I'll go look for your friend." I started to walk off, and he smiled and just said, "Don't worry, my friend won't bite." And at this point, I was starting to get uncomfortable. I almost didn't even go to the park and just went in my car. I should have done that. I just kind of forced a smile and turned around the corner. As I walked away, I could have sworn I heard him whisper something, but I couldn't really understand. And I almost turned around. I really wish I would have turned around.
We'll make part 2 if this video gets 10 subs and 50 likes.